In this video, we're going to have an extended conversation with master rifle gunsmith and a personal friend of mine, Gordy Gritters. Well, hey, Gordy, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Gavin, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Good.
Yeah, how's that Florida weather down there?
Well, so far not too bad. Sure beats Iowa weather.
Yeah, exactly. I recall you talking about
This
snow
time
back
of year
there.
anyway.
Yeah. Well, hey, I think I've probably doubled my subscribers since the last time we did a series of videos kind of introducing you and talking about your services. So why don't we start from the beginning? What I want to do in this conversation is kind of cover, you as a person, you as a gunsmith, introduce people to you personally, but then also talk about the different kinds of training and classes and materials that you have that can enable other people to achieve their dreams building rifles, like you did for me.
Yep. Well, sounds good. But yeah, I started gunsmithing back in 1987, about 37 years ago now, and I'm doing it full time most of that time. I was an investigator on the police department at the time, and wanted to have always had part-time mechanic jobs and other stuff. When I was first out of high school, I took a 2-year trade school in auto mechanics, and so I got the basics of mechanics and machining and stuff like that there. And then I got on the police department right away and was there for quite a few years. I was an investigator on the police department. And I started to get me something I could do at home. The kids were growing up, I was missing a lot of stuff, and got me something I could do at home part-time. And when part-time quickly turned into full-time. By the end of the first year of doing gunsmithing, I took a home study course in gunsmithing for a couple of years. And at the end of the first year of doing that, in 1987, I was working 40 hours full-time for the police department, 50 hours part-time for myself, and I had a guy working for me part-time, and still couldn't keep up. And that was 1987. I haven't been caught up since. So
Right.
So it's been good. But then right away, I used to get involved with drag racing a lot when I was first out of high school. Loved drag racing and things like that, and we were real competitive. And so I got involved with competitive shooting right away, and I started doing the BR-50, which back then was a rimfire bench rest, worldwide thing, and I was director for that, and did that. I really liked bench rest, really enjoyed doing that. And then the Varmint Hunter magazine started up, so I started going to Varmint Hunter Jamborees when they started having those, because I was advertising in the Varmint Hunter magazine right away. And so the first Jamboree they had, there's, I don't know, 200 or 300 people there, a bunch of people from all over the world, big deal. And so I went up there and talked to the people there. I said, I'm not planning on shooting this. I just came down here, and if there's anything I can help you with, I'd be more than glad to. I said, I run a bench rest range back in Iowa, and they said, boy, you wouldn't want to be our range master, would you? They'd never run a match before that. And I said, yeah, I'll do that. So I was the range master for every single Varmint Hunter Jamboree there ever was. It went from the early 90s, like 93 or 4 was the first Jamboree, and like 2010 maybe was the last one before they shut down. But I was the range master for all those Jamborees. So
what is a Varminting Jamboree exactly?
The Varmint Hunter magazine, they set it up as an association where you can become members. And a member, you buy a membership, you get a magazine, very, very, very good magazine. And a lot of technical articles in there. I wrote a lot of technical articles in that magazine. It was published over the years. And early on, they started this rifle match, trying to duplicate as close as what they could in a competitive way, prairie dog hunting.
Nice.
So they set up balloons, racks of balloons at multiple distances, start at odd yardages. Kind of how it is, they had the range set up to where every time they had on a side hill. So every time a high part of the hill would come over, they'd run a line of targets down that. Then the next would go through valley, the next line of targets. So they had targets at 107 yards, 246 yards, 365, and 492. 492 was the longest distance.
Nice.
And you had 18 balloons, 20 shots, no sighters and no wind flags. It was quite a deal.
Wow.
But anyway, each shooter had a spotter behind them and the score, and somebody would clean it, but that was really unusual. So it was a very, very, very competitive thing. And there's more people built more rifles over the years to shoot at balloons out in the middle of South Dakota, which is where this is at. And it was a hugely popular thing. A lot of industry came there and set up booths and things like that. And people from all over the world came to this thing. And just as a side note here, just 2 years ago now, some guys in Kansas set up, they're duplicating this exact same yardages, same basic rules, all the stuff. They've got me come in as range master. So they've had it twice now.
Nice.
This year coming up in May is the third time, and they call it the Blast. But anyway, it's a duplicate of the Varmint Hunter Jamboree. It's becoming very, very popular too. But so I did that for all those years. But I wanted to get into 1,000-yard shooting. I was ready to do some 200-yard local matches. But I wanted to get into 1,000-yard shooting. Nobody anywhere near the Midwest did that. There was clubs out on the East Coast and North Carolina and Pennsylvania, and there was another one out like Williamsport, Pennsylvania. But they had another spinoff club out west in Washington, I believe. And anyway, there's I think Sacramento has something like that. Really nothing in the whole Midwest. So I thought I'll just start my own club. So I did that, and I did the first year, which was like 2001 or 2002. I did just some practice 1,000-yard matches to see if anybody was interested. Man, it was inundated with people interested. And so the next year I set up and started running registered 1,000-yard matches. We registered with the IBS, the International Bench Race Shooters. And so I did that for a couple of years, and then I wanted to get it out of my shop and set up a separate business, under an LLC with it. So it became the Iowa 1,000-Yard Bench Rest Club, Bench Rest Association with an LLC, so I could set up a separate business and get it out of my shop. So I took a Lee Fisher in as a partner to help with that, and we did that until 2010 when the owner of the property passed away, and then we lost the range that we were on, lost the ability to do that. But I've been running matches for 20 some years. By that time, I'm getting tired of it, and so I ended up selling all my benches and shut the club down then. But starting back in the late 90s, 97, I believe, I was already advertising in the Varmint Hunter magazine, and one of the local gunsmithing schools out of Oklahoma, Murray State College, they called me up and if I'd be interested in teaching an accurizing class at one of the NRA summer gunsmithing classes at their college. So yeah, I'll do that, So never taught anything like that in my life, but I like doing that. So see if I can help them out. So I drove down there. It was a week long class, and I did that for 3 years, I believe, like 97 through 99. And did on AR-15s. They had already had somebody else doing bolt action guns. And I was doing quite a bit of AR work back in the day. Back in the 90s already, and making some super accurate rifles. So I did that class on AR-15 accurizing, and so I kind of got a feel for teaching. Well, then then I started the Iowa 1,000-Yard Club, so I started teaching some long range shooting classes, some 1,000-yard shooting classes. A lot of that is the hand loading part of it, and reading the wind and mirage and gun handling and all that stuff, But so I did that for a while, and I was also teaching some guys who were wanting to learn how to do chambering and stuff like that. So I was just informally doing some 1 and 2 day classes on chambering with individuals, and well then I don't remember what year it was, maybe 06 or 07. I just bought a new lathe, which is this Birmingham lathe behind me right here. I just bought that thing because I was having a lot of trouble with reamer chatter with 5R barrels. Because rotten barrels started coming, that Tim North and his wife are great people, just love them people, but they had bought rotten barrels that started rotting up. So everybody, and I see that one of the jamborees, I met them, got talking with them, and they were over in Wisconsin. I said, "You're just next door in Wisconsin. I'm in Iowa. You ought to start coming shooting in our 1,000-yard club and get to know people. They'll buy your barrels." And they did. They started coming every match for years. They came there, and we got to know them. They got to know us and the people around. So I started chambering a lot of their barrels. Right away, I started having, because I checked continually through the whole process with my long range indicators how I was finding this stuff. But I was getting reamer chatter anytime I did a 5-groove barrel. and I couldn't figure it out, and so I finally thought, well, my lathe is wasn't that old, maybe it is. I bought a much heavier, stiffer, better lathe. Made no difference whatsoever, none. They still got the exact same chatter, still do to this day. In fact, the barrel that's in there right now is a 5-bar barrel, and it's going to be causing me chatter issues probably by the time I get that far in there. But I developed ways over the years of how to deal with that kind of stuff. So,
like boring away the lands.
Bore away the lands, and I even use get 5-flute throating reamers made to go ahead of the lands even farther, so that way the reamer goes in a whole lot farther before the reamer throat gets there. That's what's causing the chatter, the reamer throat. And so anyway, all the classes I do here, I really teach people that, because it's something if you don't catch, it can get away from you. If you don't get away from you, it's not a problem, but boy, it can be. So, so I'm just very, very aware of that, I guess. So then I just bought this lathe, and then Shiraz, who knows Grizzly, called me up one day and wanted to, he was looking for a different gunsmith and wanted somebody to work with him on that. So I was explaining to him, if he was asking how I chambered barrels and how I dialed things in, so I explained to him what I did. I just got this lathe, and he said, well, you wouldn't be interested in giving me some info on how to do gunsmithing lathes, would you? I make a lathe. You do? Who are you with? I didn't know the name, and
Gotcha.
Well, he was with Grizzly, so I happened to design those Grizzly gunsmithing lathes, and they're, to this day, they're good lathes. I help a lot of people in classes that I travel to have got those, and I help them get them set up and show how to work with that. But they're all set up ready for gunsmithing, and they're inexpensive. They're a lathe that's at a price point that most people can afford. Just like the Precision Matthew lathes now. I've got a Precision Matthew here. Those are lathes that most people can afford lathes like that. They're not a $25,000 or $50,000 lathe, but they're in the class of lathe that a lot of people can do. So anyway, so I've been got into doing more and more teaching classes, and put out some videos, and so that's just kind of taken on a life of its own. That's one of the reasons I moved to Florida here a few years ago. I moved to Kansas City for a short time, for a few years, and then I moved on farther down the south because we kept getting snow being a problem in the wintertime. I do classes year round, but the majority of it's in the wintertime. And that's always a big concern. If I got 6 or 8 or 10 people here and get a blizzard coming in, what do I do,
Right.
And so I moved to Florida, so now instead of blizzards, I got hurricanes to worry about. So last year we hit with 2 of them, one right after the other. But that's the kind of, it's like a little bit more of off season than it's my prime season is over the winter, where I do the most classes. And like right now, I got a class coming up at the end of January of 2024 here in about 3 or 4 weeks. I got a week-long class, regular class coming in. I'll have several people in that class. Another one in the first or second week of April. Another one in June, stuff like that. But I'm booked up all the way into April right now with private classes, as well as those classes. See, and so I do, all kind of stuff. But that's become a big thing is the classes. To the point now that I'm not doing near as much gunsmithing work, because I'm just trying to help other people learn this. And the majority of people I do classes with are new people, don't have much experience, sometimes none at all. But I can get them going very, very quickly with the basics of it, and they can go and practice and learn more on their own. After that, I help with that, and but I also do a lot of private classes where they can actually come in here and we're having to go to their place, but they come in here and actually learn how to run a lathe. I'll spend some time. PVC pipe is your friend.
Right.
PVC, put a piece of PVC pipe in a 4-jaw chuck. You can dial that in fairly close.
Sure.
So they start learning how to dial stuff in, but you can absolutely turn it to a particular diameter, into a particular length, cut a particular thread. That's exactly the same thing as doing a tenon on a barrel without worrying about crashing things. That works super good as a teaching tool. So I do that all the time. But they very, very quickly get on to the lathe. Is pretty basic mechanical item that once they learn how to run it and operate it and do the settings on it, they can do that. I do that over and over and over again. I've done it for 20-some years now, teaching people how to do that. So I get them going really quickly with that. Take years off their learning curve, so to speak.
Absolutely.
But I do a lot of classes also with big industries. who have, either manufacturers or they have a whole bunch of gunsmiths work for them or something like that. They can either come here or I go to their place. I've done that a lot over the years. A lot of government entities come down here where I've gone to their facilities. So they've, hired me to train their gunsmiths and stuff. And I do a lot with that also. And law enforcement, state, federal law enforcement I've done a lot with those. And so anyway, the teaching thing has been a great thing. And I guess I just like to help people learn how to get started with this thing and get going with it and up their game, so to speak. All the years I've been gunsmithing, my total focus has been on accuracy and learning better ways to do things, and not necessarily faster ways of doing things. It seems like the longer I do this, the slower and slower I get. But I've learned to really, really, really be careful and pay attention to details, and all the little details add up.
Right.
So that's kind of my basic background on where I'm at now.
So there's 3 different types of classes. There's regularly scheduled classes like the one that I took, where they can come to your shop in Florida and they can observe the entire process for a week. And then there are individual classes where someone can come and work with you on one-on-one and get hands-on. Yep. And then there's the services where you could do individual instruction, consulting, teaching by coming into someone's business and evaluating rifles and looking at setups and that kind of stuff. Now, for the first one, I'm going to help to let people know when these classes are coming up, in 2024. And you've got that on your website as well.
Yeah.
How about for the latter two? If someone wanted to take an individual class with you, one-on-one instruction, how would they coordinate that?
For the private classes, yeah. They just email me or call me. And the regular classes, I got to sign up for my on my website. They can go actually sign up for it, or they can call me. Either way, I'm a one-man shop. I'm here by myself all the time, so I'm the one that answers the phone and so forth. But yeah, they just typically they'll call me up and I get out my calendar and kind of talk back and forth with them and see how kind of what they want to learn, what their prior skill level is, if any, and how much experience they've had. Kind of between the two is kind of figure out about how much time it's going to take to cover what they need, as well as what their budget will allow, that type of thing. And we just kind of plan a course together as to what, kind of how to set up a private class, because the private class I can do anything. If you want to learn bluing as well as chamber barrels, whatever, I can set up a class that does all that stuff. And so then we just find dates, mutual dates on the calendar that'll work for both of us, and then we lock those dates in, and then those dates are theirs. So
nice. No, that's great. And having taken your week-long class, the way I look at it, for me, I had already chambered rifles prior to coming down. So when I took the class, I was very closely looking at some things that you were doing with the chambering process, including things like, hey, Gordy, how tight are you tightening the chuck jaws on those aluminum pads where, the barrel is pivoting? And that was just because I had already done it. But there were quite a few things where it was like, okay, well, I'm here kind of to observe the end-to-end process. And I know I'm going to have to try it myself, and then I'll have more questions. And I know some people will actually take your class multiple times.
Yeah, I get a lot of that actually. So
I think that's very valuable. I wish I could come and take it again. Maybe we'll do something like that at your place or my place, again and whatnot. But it's been very, very helpful. And then when I go to someone else's shop, like Bruce Tom, the owner of Bat Machine, now I can compare and contrast. One of the biggest differences between your setups was he was all solid carbide or inserted tooling, right? Yeah. No high-speed steel. So it's like, okay, here's 2 different options. How can I learn from both instructors and create my own process that's going to work best for me based on, what I'm doing and what my skill sets are and all that kind of thing. But I'm not aware of anywhere else that you can go and get into the depth that you get into with the precision rifle stuff in a week. If you sign up for a trade school, there's a lot of good trade schools out there, at least a few in the United States that are, get down into the nitty gritty. When you're not going to get into the chambering that deeply, right? And with this ultra precision methodology and mindset and all that. So, my whole philosophy is do world-class work and charge world-class prices, and that's how you stay in business. Because being in business is expensive, right?
Oh, yeah.
I've really appreciated your class, and that really helped fast track me, right? And then I show some of that on my channel, and I do different things too. And it's a passion, and I think it's great to see that passion come alive in people at your class.
Yeah, 'cause really quick after taking my class, you were putting out some really good shooting rifles right after that, and you did some guns before that. We talked and emailed back and forth several times over the years before you took the class even, I'll never say my way is the best way, but I will say it absolutely works, and it'll work in a home shop just as well as it does in a big industrial setting. It's the attention to details, really what it amounts to, and the setups and how you do things, and one thing leads to another thing, and how you set up the first thing and do it, depends on how the second way. And there's different methodology of doing things. Some of that's dependent on the machinery and the tooling. One guy has to learn how to make that really work. Another guy has a different setup and a different way of doing things, and really makes that work. But there's some standards that go right down to the middle that can work all the way through. And some of these standards aren't met, it's just things aren't going to work as well. And that's try to cover as much of that as I possibly can. A lot of details. So
yeah, and what I appreciate about the class as well is that you cover the theory. You have the bolt action working model that you do up on the board, and you go over the fact that you need good lug to lug seat contact, because when those forces are imparted between those two surfaces, if there's any irregularities, you're going to get a vibration rippling down the barrel, and then the bullet is going in a random direction. That makes sense to me. And then I can take that benchmark and work towards that in the blueprinting of the action or the lapping of the lugs or whatever it happens to be. And I know it's all about taking each variable and minimizing it, right?
Yeah.
The uneven contact, the reamer chatter, getting the barrel dialed in perfectly so that the bullet gets guided on the right path right from the get-go. So, with the visuals that you have and with the experience that you have, that was very clear to me at the beginning. So here's what we're going for, and now I'm going to show you my way to get there, right? That's a really good progression, I feel like.
Yeah, I just, a big part of what I cover, so you were in my class, you know that too, but an awful lot of what I cover, not only how to do things, but how to deal with problems that come up, because you're going to have problems. And I know that when guys come in here, they've got a lot of experience, they already know a lot of this stuff already, but guys that are just getting started and wanting to get going with things, and they're going to run into problems. There's no question about it. Well, how do you deal with these problems when they come up? And so that's, how to level a lathe, how to get that set up, how to line your headstock to your tailstock, and all those things. But if those aren't lined up, you're going to have chambering problems. Your chamber's not going to come out, the same size with the reamer. It's going to cut oversized. That's an issue.
Yep.
The throat's going to be off center of the bore. That's an issue. Reamer chatter. That's another issue. Whether it's 5-foot or just general chatter anyway. When that happens and you're halfway through a chamber, how do you deal with it? So I cover all that stuff as much as I possibly can, just to help them, because they're going to have it out sooner or later down the road. I've also got a ton of handout material that I send home with students. Pages and pages and pages and pages, just step by step how to. So when they go home, they can remember how to do all this stuff. I got over 600 captioned photos, step by step through a lot of the same thing too. So between the photos and the written material, they can work their way right through it. If they got questions, they can give me a call or email. I just figure that's an extension of the class of doing some basic consulting for them, and I know I should charge. I should, part of helping them out. And like for example, on the chambering thing, I wrote up a one-page step by step like a checklist. So you kind of know what order that I do things in, and the way that really works to get through a complete chambering job. And but I had one guy that I worked with. He was a super guy, but he didn't have any prior experience with it. He was having a hard time understanding it and remembering it. And so I said, I'll just help you out here. So I took that one page thing and I wrote up in like 13 or 14 pages in extreme detail. From the first putting the barrel in the lathe, first slug it or evaluate the barrel, make sure there's no problems inside the barrel, and get it in the lathe, get it dialed in, and then all the cuts, what tool to use, at what speed, what RPM, what feed rate, which way to turn which handle, and all that stuff, just all the way through the whole process in extreme detail. And I thought that's a great thing to just put in my class material that I hand out to people anyway.
Sure.
And so the people that are new to this, they run into questions, they can find where they're at here and work their way right through. And that's been really helpful to people a lot. So
I'll tell you
So
what.
that's something that I guess I figure as part of the class too is just a lot of education that goes along to help them when they get back home.
Yeah.
So,
I'll tell you what's been the most important assets from that class in the booklet have been all of the part numbers and the list of equipment, because you go to MSC and you're going to buy a threading insert, right? 16 ER, whatever, 18 different coatings and 23 different brands. And then you got the insert and you got the holder. It was so helpful for me. Oh, Gordy uses this Carmex holder and this Carmex insert, and it covers a certain range of threads. That right there saves a lot of what I call wandering in the desert.
buying a whole lot of stuff you don't need.
Well, yeah, and then it's trial and error, which nobody likes. Yeah, so that's another thing that's been helpful for me, and that you do get with the class. And then you're expanding your professional network. You meet all sorts of interesting people at these classes, and as small business owners and gunsmiths, that kind of synergy and being able to ask each other questions. It could be, who are you getting for insurance, right? How are you controlling your costs? Have you been able to hire someone to do this kind of work, and has it worked for you? These are all things that a lot of us are going to go through in largely the same way. So to have other people to talk to in this fairly small subset of the firearms industry is super valuable.
Yeah, it's amazing how many prior students became lifelong friends with other students in that particular class they were in, and they still do business together, keep in touch with each other. I get that all the time. So
yeah, an example of that is Robert Hall of Hallco Rifles up in Alaska, and he bought the same lathe I have, the 1640 version of my big Precision Matthews, and we're going over setups and what's working and what isn't. Super, super good stuff. Here's a question for you. Would you be willing to show us your lathe setup?
Sure. Yeah. And I'll show you both my lathes, and I'll also show you kind of like my camera system that I use in the classes. And
cool.
And I'm glad to do that. So.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a brief cut here, and then when we come back, Gordy's going to give us a little walk around and a tour of the lathe. Okay, Gordy's got his phone looking at kind of what he sees as he walks through the shop. You want to give us a brief tour, Gordy?
Yep, I'll do that. This is my shop / classroom. Here's my main workbench I work off of. I'll just kind of go around. Just a bunch of barrels that came in. I got to put on for guys guns and my little Venturous rifle over there. Anyway, here's the lathe I bought new back in 2006. I've got it set up. Right now, I got a barrel on the lathe right now that I'm working on for a F-class customer. And then there's I'll show you a little more detail here, my camera system and my big screen TV that's hooked to. I'll get to that here in a minute. I sold my big milling machine. I had a big grizzly milling machine when I moved to, and I probably replaced when I got down here. Well, I still haven't got around to replacing it yet. So I get by with this mill drill for what I do. Mill drill works really good.
Yeah.
And then just a sandblasting machine and my silicone oven and my Precision Matthews lathe.
Where's your booth, Gordy? Where do you spray?
That's back in the storage room back in here. I just
gotcha.
Doing a bunch of moving things around and like that. So I got my bluing tanks back in there, and I use that's my spray booth. But anyway, here's my second workbench and more tools and supplies and all that kind of stuff. That's the main setup. We get over here, kind of look at the whole shop. I've got mostly right now. I got the table sitting in there in the middle of the room, but I've got room in here. I could probably get 14, 15 people in a class. Most of the time it's 12 or less. 6, 8 people, 10 people sometimes. But that's most of what. I got plenty of room to put rows of chairs up there, and here's back to my system that I've got set up. There's my camera. This is I always tell people it's Gavin's fault that I got this good video camera. It's a good 4K Sony camera with a 4K TV, and that was running a much lower. It was a standard definition camera when you came. And anyway, I've got this track system I put up that I can put that camera anywhere
Oh, nice.
Over my mill, over my lathe, over my workbench.
Yep.
This end of the building, without having to go to tripods or anything like that. So like right now, I've got the camera plugged into the TV, and in my classes, really informal guys can stand around the lathe here if they want to, stand there and actually physically look at it. You can see it so much better on the TV. So right now, I've got it, kind of zoomed in on this back end of this barrel. You can kind of see here. Got my
very
threading
nice
tool here, and there's the barrel tenon and stuff like that.
Yep.
But I can zoom that thing in so much closer than that yet. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable just how close I can get on this and adjust the focus.
What was cool about being in your class, honestly, is the TV helps tremendously because not everybody can put their nose right up on the chuck, right? But also, when I was there, we could stand behind the lathe and kind of like look down directly at what you were doing, which was also very helpful, so that you're not in the way. Sorry, Gordy.
Yeah, exactly. This is one of the little props that I use in my classes, and it's a cutaway of just a partial chamber, basically, to show the get up here on the TV where you can see
Oh,
it
yeah.
there.
Nice. Yep.
Get the lights. Get where the lights aren't reflecting on the camera so much, but you get the body of the chamber, you got the shoulder, the neck, the forward part of the neck, and then you've got the freebore, which is the beginning part of the chamber. And you've got the lands going ahead of that where they're cut away. Well, this is a 5-hour barrel, 5-year barrel, so the land is wide at the base and narrows down as it goes forward. And that's, just people that aren't familiar with that can see that. I'm going to slide a cartridge in here. Now you can see right away the chamber is a different dimension, a different angle there than what the cartridge is. That's because this is an Ackley improved chamber with a standard cartridge. So when I'm talking about chambering for Ackley improved barrels, that's one of the things. Turn this so you can see it straighter. Where you see that. You can also see where the neck does not go all the way to the case neck does not go all the way to the end of the chamber neck, and then where the cartridge is in there up against the lands and so forth. But anyway, I just use that as one of my props of my teaching aids that help people understand when the chamber barrels what they're working with. So
very cool.
So anyway, that's kind of the main setup that I've got here. So
yeah, well, thanks for the tour, Gordy. Well, this has been really helpful, Gordy. I know it's helpful for my audience to be able to kind of get to know you a little bit and what you do and see your shop. Now, if people do want to take the training, where should they go?
Well, either go to my website, either Gordy'sPrecision.com or ExtremeAccuracyInstitute.com, go to the same place. Or they can call me on my phone. My cell phone is 641-780-5085. So either one, or just Google me. Google my name and it'll all come up on Google pretty fast. So
nice. And if you're watching this video, if you click on that first link in the video description, our written article will have Gordy's phone number and a link to the Extreme Accuracy Institute and so on and so forth. Thank you again, Gordy, for the time. And I'm really excited. We got training that we're launching together this coming year and other adventures in doing great rifles and improving processes and sharing knowledge. So just, again, I want to say I'm just real thankful for what you've brought into my professional career, and it's great to be friends with you as well.
Yep, same with you, Gavin.
Well, again, to all of you watching, if you have a question for Gordy, just drop a comment and we'll engage in that discussion. That concludes this video, and that means it's time to wrap it up. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, we're on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, where we've got unrestricted content, and Instagram. Make sure to follow us on all those channels. Ultimate Reloader also has a commercial solutions division serving law enforcement, the military, and the gun industry. We have some unique capabilities, including a comprehensive suite of recoil testing and evaluation capabilities, trigger profiling, and more. If you're interested in custom rifles like what we build here on the channel or gunsmithing services, you're going to want to go to rifles.ultimatereloader.com and get on the wait list. If you want to learn lucrative gunsmithing like what I show here on the channel, including building custom rifles and Cerakote plus a whole bunch more, you're going to want to check out the Colorado School of Trades, schooloftrades.edu. Thanks again for watching.